creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
It was a structure black discovered by ground-penetrating radar near the Beardmore Glacier about 400 miles from the United States McMurdo Station. And here is the corner of 8 sides, black, solid
octagon?
black. It's an octagon. It's 23 feet by 18-foot door. He tries different ways with his fingers, and suddenly there is a sound. This gigantic door begins to move, and it's moving toward him. And he realizes, my God, this thing is 23 feet deep, 17, 18 feet high. This is the door. And it's made out of something like a black obsidian, solid black.
What did he tell you at this point, what he thought that he was looking at? Is this man-made, or is this extraterrestrial? Is this something that he's assessing?
At that time, I don't think that he had been assigned a category for the investigation.
Right.
And when he gets in now where the door was and gets further, the temperature is 69 degrees Fahrenheit. It's 42 degrees below zero outside.
Is this a black site?
Why does the most powerful AI chip company call itself NVIDIA, from the Latin invidia, meaning envy? Why does its logo mirror the all-seeing eye of Dajjal? Why the obsession with robotic eagle eyes, spirals, and surveillance GPUs? But it's not just them. Gmail resembles the Freemason apron. Chrome is a spiral eye shaped like 666. The Play Store triangle mirrors the pyramid. Google's G echoes the Masonic G. Tesla's T resembles the head of Baphomet. Apple's bitten fruit symbolizes forbidden knowledge. And the first Apple computer sold for 666.66. Why 666? Why the number of the beast? These aren't random. They're not just logos. They are signatures, ritual symbols embedded in your daily tech. You carry them in your pocket. You whisper to them. You sleep beside them. They are watching, logging, learning, because they serve the eye. The Dajjalic system no longer hides. It flaunts itself in plain sight. They are not just building bunkers. They are building the system of Dajjal. And when he arrives, everything will already be in place. This isn't just about war, or technology, or power. This is about your soul. Because when people are hungry, confused, and digitally erased, they'll accept any false messiah who offers them bread and order. And that is the final step.
Time has finally come for people to stop laughing at conspiracy theories and open their eyes.
The book of Genesis laid out exactly what happened to the earth in the past during the flood, starting with what the Bible calls the fountains of the great deep opening. It wouldn't be until the 1950s that technology initially developed to detect submarines underwater would stumble across these gigantic scars from the fountains of the great deep that had split open, exactly as the Bible had described. How did a book, thousands of years old, know exactly what was at the bottom of the ocean floor? The Bible says that first, these giant subterranean rifts broke open, piercing the earth's crust, spewing magma that created steam jets that shot up into the sky. Then the book of Genesis says that the waters poured down as torrential rain through the windows of heaven that were opened up, and that the rain lasted 40 days and 40 nights. The supercontinent that the book of Genesis described is now beginning to break apart. At first, the newly partitioned continents oscillate, slamming into each other before starting their ultimate journey of separation. This closes seaways and forms volcanoes and mountains in the Americas and Europe, such as the Appalachian and Caledonian ranges. The seafloor spreads, forming from molten magma, widening the separation between the new continents. Scientists will later discover that the seafloor at the mid-Atlantic ridge is much younger than the seafloor in other parts of the world, exactly as the Bible suggests. As this newly emerging volcanic floor spreads, it subducts under the west coast of North America, binding and releasing, causing massive tsunamis, carrying mud mixed with sea creatures, totally overwhelming the land. As what's known as the Kondratyevsky rise pushes up during the subduction, the Rocky Mountains also begin to form, along with the Independence Dyke Swarm, a 400-mile-long volcanic region that billows ash that covers half of America. As the western interior seaway emerges during this time, the last of the dinosaurs are flooded, mixed together with sea life, and are buried in mud, sand, and ash in the middle of America. As we near the end of the flood, activity begins to cease as the seafloor stops spreading and begins to cool. As the new massive ocean floors cool and retract, the waters reverse back down into the new ocean basins and recede as much as a mile. All over the earth, trillions of fossils are left behind as incredible evidence of the worldwide catastrophic flood.
Correct me, please, but I'm sure there are no mentions of dinosaurs in the Bible. And it's funny how these footages has existed for 120 years, and until recently, no one even questioned that as art.
One of the real problems with the Bible is as you get older and older with the Bible, things get weirder and weirder. So it's like, what was the original story? Like, if you get to the Dead Sea Scrolls are bananas. And there's stuff in the Dead Sea Scrolls, like if you get, like, I had Rep Luna, Anna Paulina Luna on the podcast, and she was talking to me about the Book of Enoch. She goes, you ever read that? And
But
I was
that's
like,
not
no.
included in the canonized.
Here's why. Because of rabbis. A bunch of rabbis said it didn't align with the Torah, and so they yanked it out. But it's an original biblical text, or at least a part of the original religious text that they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran. When they found those clay tablets, the Book of Enoch was in there along with the Book of Isaiah.
We need to call Wesley.
The Book of
Huff.
Enoch is nuts.
That's
I talked
the
to myself
Giants
about
one.
it.
That's the Giants
It's
one,
not just the Giants, it's aliens. It's about the Watchers who came down and mated with human beings. Bro, yeah, I'm reading it right now.
I know you are. I already know.
Bananas. She told me to read it. When they found it, they also found a version of the Book of Isaiah. This is one of the things that Wes Huff told me that was really fascinating. They found a version of the Book of Isaiah that is verbatim the same as a version of Isaiah that was 1,000 years later, which they thought was the original.
Unbelievable.
That's what's crazy. For 1,000
that.
years, they maintained the exact same story verbatim, writing it down and passing it on. And the Book of Enoch's in there with that. And the Book of Enoch is bananas.
Yeah, I think we might need to do a little deep dive on the Book of Enoch.
The Book of Enoch, it says that these Watchers came down and mated with human beings and created a race of giants called the Nephilim, who consumed and destroyed everything in front of them. Gee, that sounds like people.
This is the kind of rabbit hole I like to throw myself down.
There was the blot that we did on the Halloween night of 2019, and that's where things got weird. They went and stole a ram or a goat, and we had been training all day, And then they had the little holy spot on this 100-acre farm in Rome, Georgia. And that's where we'd done our blots before. And we went down in the woods with this goat, sacrificed it, and drank his blood to kick off the wild hunt. A lot of people in the group did acid after that to help with the shaman, which I'm like, I think you're just high. I don't think it's the shaman. But who am I to say? They tried to chop the head of the goat off. It didn't work. Shot it in the head. I asked them to put another round in it because it was still kicking like 2 minutes later. Then they sliced his throat, filled the cup with blood, and everybody's on their knees in a circle except for me because it's pitch black, so in the middle of the woods. So I'm shining a flashlight for the guy who went by the code name Eisen. He's the one that led the blood. So he's got a sheet of acid. So he's going around to each person who wants to do the acid, and he's putting a hit under their tongue, and then they're chasing it with the blood. This to signify the sacrifice, because this goat's now going to Odin, and this sacrifice is for Odin and to kick off the wild hunt. I went around, and by the time it got to me, I turned to partake in the blood. It was all chunky, and it was clotting. It was coagulated, and I'm looking down going, oh, man, I really don't want to turn this up, And I think it was pestilence that gave me an out. So I just took 2 fingers. 'Cause I'm like, man, this is getting chunky. And I took 2 fingers and deep into the blood and then sucked all the blood off my finger.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then they chopped the head of it off, and we carried the head around for 3 or 4 days, taking pictures.
Smells.
Yeah, right. Nah, those are all, it's weird. A lot of kind of some demonic stuff going on there, man.
Yeah.
They want to claim pagan, but there was, and again, it wasn't pagan, it was white supremacy pagan, but some demonic stuff. And then we went out, and the last night was a Saturday night. That was a Thursday night. So Saturday night, we go back down, and meanwhile, we're filming all this. This is all for propaganda videos as well, because we're trying to recruit more young men to become part of the base and be a white supremacist. So we go down there, and now it's being filmed and everything, but we are now burning American flags. We're burning holy Bibles while people are yelling, F your Jewish God and death to America and all this stuff. That one, yeah. When I came back from that trip, I felt like I had something on me. I felt dirty. I texted my pastor. I was like, hey, I know it's hard for especially type A personalities to reach out for help, but man, I could use some prayer, because I'm like, I am not feeling it. I feel weird. That rocked me.
I know there's been multiple contact events. Like
coordinated
straight up contact events. One of them is revealed in the film, actually, but there are more. There was several of the people in my film talk about an event that happened at Halleman Air Force Base where 2 non-human crafts approached the base, 1 landed, beings walked out and interacted with Air Force officials and CIA officials. And a couple people go on the record talking about that in the film. But there have been other events, I've been told.
How are those beings described?
They were described as tall, slender, humanoid. And the another thing that I heard that gave me chills was that someone involved with a recovery interacted with a non-human being that was dying and heard thoughts in his head that said, you humans don't know your full potential. And that was said to me by a very senior, older guy from the intelligence community. Other things that I didn't include in the film, Joe, it's bonkers to think about. All of the intelligence officials who actually investigated this for the government, like the people involved in OSAP and ATIP and UAP Task Force, they all started having activity at their homes when they were investigating non-human intelligent life.
Like
and
what kind of activity?
Orbs in their houses, orbs interacting with their family, causing medical issues for family members, family members ending up in the hospital due to orb activity. Like
what issues due to orb activity?
One of the senior intelligence officials that I spoke to, and I'll let him tell his own story when he's ready, but son got extremely impacted by an orb, black and blue over his whole body, had to go to the hospital, looked like someone took a bat to his chest.
Let's go in. The last major reset occurred between the mid-1700s and late 1800s, roughly 250 to 150 years ago. This reset wasn't just war or disease. It was a global memory wipe, infrastructure repopulation, and narrative overwrite. They used mud floods, fires, engineered natural disasters, and selective rewriting of history to wipe Tartaria and erase what came before. Now here's the strange part. The Capitol buildings, World's Fair structures, old world cathedrals, domed geometries. These were already here. We didn't build them, we inherited them. Photos from the 1800s show cities fully built, yet nearly empty. No scaffolding, no construction, just there. And the stories, always the same, built in a few years, then burned down. Now enter the orphan trains and Cabbage Patch Kids. Between 1854 and 1929, over 200,000 children were shipped across the U.S. by train. No parents, no background, just orphans. But where did all the orphans come from? They were reset survivors, children with no memory, no lineage, placed into repopulated cities to seed a new narrative. Why? Because adults remember. Children can be programmed. Cabbage Patch Kids, the dolls said to be grown in the Cabbage Patch, are symbolic disclosure. Born from the earth, no parents. Just like the orphan trains, the name is not innocent, it's encoded truth. The U.S. wasn't founded and built from scratch. It was inherited, cleansed, and rebranded. The buildings were Tartarian. The reset was intentional. And now the memory is coming back. Because people like you are asking the right questions.
I heard the elite took over.
Tartarian culture, they ate lots of raw meat. They actually used to take their meat, put it underneath their saddle, and as they rode their horse, the meat would actually get fermented and gain bacteria, which was very, very beneficial. And it's interesting too, because a lot of Tartarians lived up to 300 years old. So think about that with the whole high meat thing, and this is something to look into. The Eskimos lived on a diet solely comprised of meat and fish, frozen and eaten raw. That's it. That's all they ate. Raw fish and raw meat all the time. And it was interesting too, because they noticed even with their dogs, with the Eskimos and their dogs, that if their dogs ate too much fresh fish all the time and they didn't let it turn into high meat and let it ferment in the earth, that the animals would actually get lethargic and tired. So it's interesting because, you know, when you get into the whole eating raw meat situation, you also need to make high meat. And this is where you get into the whole thing with meat, where people say, oh, the meat is rotting, the meat is fermenting. The lactic acid that is building in there and all the enzymes and all the bacteria and all of that is very beneficial. And the longer you let that raw meat begin to just do its fermentation process, the stronger it becomes.
The meat then and the meat now are entirely different.
This is one of the most terrifying true crime cases I've ever heard of. The scariest part of it all is this could be anyone that you know. Your dad, your husband, your friend, a relative, anybody. Before we proceed, please know that there is some disturbing content within this video. This all took place in the Channel Island of Jersey in 1957. A 29-year-old nurse was waiting for a bus station minding her own business when a man comes up behind her with this mask and attacks her. She was dragged into a field and SA'd. She was severely injured and was left with incredible amounts of wounds that needed incredible amounts of stitches. The following year, a 20-year-old woman was also assaulted and attacked and brutally raped. This soon became a pattern, and all of the victims claimed that this man would always smell musty and would always have a face covering or some type of mask. In 1960, a small 12-year-old boy was asleep peacefully in his bed when he was awoken by this man who climbed through his bedroom window.
Oh my goodness.
The boy had a rope placed around his neck and was pulled outside and assaulted. As several more cases went on, this guy's name was called the Beast of Jersey. The photo behind me is a mannequin as to what he would appear to be wearing most of the time he would be doing these attacks. And I'm sorry, this is terrifying. It's giving me Leatherface vibes all the way. And I really can't believe that I don't hear more about this true crime case. The man's name was Edward John Lewis Paisnell. He was a 46-year-old man. He was actually married with a daughter and 2 stepchildren. His wife, Joan, actually had a foster home, and that is how she met him. And the kids actually knew him as Uncle Ted. He actually dressed up as Santa Claus every year and would give them sweets and treats and gifts, which is so fucking scary, guys, okay?
Sick.
In November of 1971, it took only 38 minutes for a guilty verdict to be reached on his trial. And he was also taken away to await his sentencing. He stood in the same court 2 weeks later and was sent to prison for 30 years. He was actually released from prison in 1991 for being a model prisoner.
What?
He ended up returning to Jersey very briefly, where the islanders remember his reign of terror, but he then died of a heart attack a couple years later.
Wow. Definitely needs a movie or series.
There are trenches that are separated by thousands and thousands of miles that are basically the same creature. And yet, how were these trenches ever connected? How did they migrate? We found one creature in the Java Trench off of Indonesia. Strangest thing I've ever seen underwater. It was about at 6,000 meters. And just recently, they saw something that looked exactly like it under Antarctica.
What did it look like?
It looks like a jellyfish with a cable coming out the back end of it. It's called a stalked Ascidian. And it came right up to the lander, did a right turn, and crossed it. If you turn all the lights off on the submarine and you look out of the portal, you're seeing the blackest black that your mind can register. Remember Nietzsche, be careful when you look into the abyss. It's looking back into you too.
Ooh,
for bioluminescence,
yep.
At about 2,000 or 3,000 meters, I would turn all the lights off and then I would turn all of them on at once and then turn them off again, like I was blinking. And sure enough, I'd start seeing flashes of light all throughout the ocean, like lightning.
The man's live every dude's wildest daydreams.
They did research for a movie and they were using actual spells to do it, and everyone got sick with some disease they hadn't seen in thousands of years.
Oh,
Vampire
God.
Diaries too. They had witches from Salem actually say you don't know what you're dabbling with, because apparently they were pulling like actual curses and using them in the filming of that.
I mean, you think about it, like how the governments use witches and occult stuff in their own psyop experiments and, everything like that. So it's like Pentagon has their own thing for cinema and for film. Like, who knows, man?
It's weird.
It is strange. It just makes you want to become a monk. They list out everything that they lived with, and it's like, maybe that is a little bit of how we're supposed to be living.
I know.
Very minimalistically.
Think about music too, though. The Psalms are supposed to be like actual penned notes, so you can take the Psalms and actually like play the music that was the melody that was intended to be played. But if that's true, then that would imply that music, sometimes when we hear something, like think about that opening hook. I'm just using Harry Potter because we're talking about it, but dun 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 dun, like that opening thing. Why does that make us feel mysterious and odd? It's like if they are dabbling in things, could the unsettling be actual auditory? Maybe it's not an actual spell, but it puts you in a place to be susceptible to something.
Interesting.
So they used to actually have devices where they could communicate with each other through these glass sphere objects, through the power of the ether. And bear in mind, this was in the 1800s. They had far more advanced technology than we do have now. And the buildings back this evidence up as well. They essentially had FaceTime in the 1800s through these devices.
What?
Not to mention they could create free energy through the buildings and the shapes of these buildings, through those big antennas that you can see on the buildings that would harness atmospherical energy through metals like copper and mercury, specifically red mercury. So then you have to ask the question, where did all this technology go? And why did they remove this free energy technology? And you have to understand that they removed this technology because almost all of it utilized free energy from the ether as the fifth element. And the ether was available to everyone, as the ether is infinite and it was free. But the Rockefellers could not profit from the ether because free energy cannot have a profit to it. So then during World War I, all of these buildings alongside the ether were destroyed, and then all of the documents about the ether were completely fabricated. And that's exactly why you have the electricity you have today, because the profits are extremely high and they can actually sell it, unlike the ether.
Okay, and tell me why those buildings didn't have bathrooms, please.
What you're looking at right here is the Chronicles of Georgia, and until today, I didn't even know this existed. Now, this looks like an Iron Age mystery, but it was actually built in 1985. 16 towers of stone and bronze telling Georgia's stories of Christianity and the royals. There even seems to be depictions of some sort of Anunnaki figures on the structures. Of course, this is my own individual observation, but you can see some very interesting figures. Obviously, we see Jesus on the cross. We see some royals and all that stuff, but there is some, like I said, Anunnaki-looking figures like this. Now, there's another theory that this is an ancient structure, and they just said that they built it in 1985 and used cranes and all that stuff, but who knows? I'm not 100% sure. I never believe what I hear from the mainstream, but if anyone has any, information on, the Chronicles of Georgia, Let us know in the comments down below. And as always, like, share, and follow for more hidden truth. Peace and love.
If it was created in 1985, there surely must be construction photos of it, right? Right?
I'm talking about a dude standing at the foot of my bed. He's an Amazon witch. This guy was the real deal. He's next level sorcerer. I made a bunch of covenants with him, and I didn't mean to. I offered him my friendship. That's a covenant. He knew what he was doing. He wanted me to make covenants with him so that he would have legal rights to show up. And that joker showed up in my house. I think he was trying to murder me.
What do you do in that situation?
I turned on the light and I went, what the? And he was like shocked that I saw him.
They're always showing up in people's bedrooms. That seems to be the #1 story that is sent to us in various
they're cowards.
forms.
Don't think they're brave. They're actually slaves, and they want to get away with what they're doing, and they don't want any resistance. They just want you just to take it.
Love listening to his stories. He's an awesome guy and man of Jesus.
The Polish pyramids are a group of megalithic tombs discovered in the Kujawian region of Poland. They are elongated mounds, reaching a length of up to 150 meters and a height of 2 to 3 meters, and are believed to date back 5,500 years to the Neolithic period, thus predating the Egyptian pyramids.
This is what the Jesuits did to 68 countries in Europe, destroyed them in the 1800s. And then they came to the U.S., and they're doing the same thing now here.
Mm-hmm.
And
could you describe the look?
The look
the
physical look is wire rim glasses. It's all minimalization.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real stretched skin, sort of very clean shaven, and then just hair short and slicked back. It's just a real clean cut look. I noticed that a lot of the people who go to Bohemian Grove have that same look. So those are the financiers and economists and the people who drive the economy. They have that same look. Now, Obama, everyone in his administration, 10% of Congress, they have all been Jesuit trained. Governor Brown, Leon Panetta is a Californian, Janet Napolitano, they all went to Santa Clara University, a Jesuit institution.
Wow.
We have been told that we are the most advanced civilization to ever walk this world, and that all these pyramids, monuments, and temples were just made by primitive people, worshipping primitive gods. But I believe the case can be made quite easily, showing a much different picture. And in fact, we are the primitive ones, living on the ruins of a post-apocalyptic time. And we built and inherited right on top of this massive energy grid, this massive computer of the old world. Just look at these ancient buildings and structures, what's left of them. The ruins laid out exactly like circuitry. Everything in the old world was built with such precision and purpose, just like a motherboard, harnessing and amplifying and distributing the free energy all around us. Parts of that can still be found hidden in plain sight. Much like the star forts, these buildings were technology, and that technology was everywhere. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
What a wonderful time to be alive.
Today we are absolutely exposing the sick perverts at Voodoo Donuts. From the unclassified FBI symbol for pedophilia and their logo, to blatant ties to the Illuminati and the Freemasons, all the way to underground child sex trafficking rings linked to satanic ritual abuse. We are showing no mercy because out of every restaurant in the world, this one disgusts me the most. What you currently see is some official declassified symbols used by pedophiles, uncovered by the FBI during Operation Innocent Images. And this is Voodoo Donuts, using the exact same pedo spiral as the image titled Little Boy Lover on a donut that appears to be a suffering and dying human. And that's not all. These cowards proudly utilize every single one of these predatory images on their donuts. And if the symbols just aren't enough for you, do you really think it's coincidence that one of their locations is on Minor Avenue with their sign that says, quote, "The magic is in the hole," right under the pedophile symbol on their logo for little boy lover. It's time to wake up and understand that the entire reason this company uses donuts is to symbolize abuse of children. And this isn't just some baseless accusation. No, there was a real whistleblower who was verifiably at the owners of Voodoo Donuts house and who witnessed child sex trafficking. Listen to what he said.
And what did you see at Trace Shannon's house?
When I was at this party, as well as at no less than 3 other engagements, people are doing sexual shit in the back. Then I see kids being brought into the back. Then I'm asking, who are these kids? Who are their parents? And that immediately drew attention onto me.
This man reported all of this to the police, and instead of an investigation, he was dismissed, gang-stalked, and smeared by a bunch of fake news outlets. An obvious cover-up. So ask yourself, why is Voodoo Donuts partnered with Universal Studios right next to Disney World? Because they have the exact same agenda.
I'm collecting stupid little boys. There's no risk. They never come back as boys.
This is an active occult ritual. They are giving your children donuts symbolic of the satanic ritual abuse they subject them to, and everybody who eats a donut from this wicked place is a part of it. If you desire to stop eating Satan's food and start true healing in a biblically based way, me and my partner Noah, who healed his dad of prostate cancer using herbs and diet, are releasing multiple free ebooks filled with the knowledge on how to heal biblically on this website or at the link in my bio, where you can also find tons of healing remedies like soursop, which literally heals cancer, or burdock root, which helps cleanse your blood from the vaccinations they push on you and your child. The last thing I have to say is I rebuke this place in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Yah bless.
Darkness will be exposed into the light. Great job, brother. Oh gosh. They keep signing it for Satan, evil, and you know when the actual demon appears, they will scream for help.
I'm just finding out that people are living in the Grand Canyon, and I'm not talking about on the outskirts, but deep within, as in you need to take an 8-mile hike to get in or out, unless you're taking a mule or going via helicopter. This is in Supai, Arizona. It's called the Supai Village in the Havasu Canyons in the Grand Canyon, and this place is completely rural. They have a population of about 200 people, and it falls outside of the Grand Canyon National Park jurisdiction. It is by the Havasupai tribe, who have been there for over 1,000 years, and they administer the land completely on their own. They have their own culture, their own tradition, their own laws, and hikers and tourists need a full reservation in order to go there. I can't imagine what it's like to live there, because there's limited to no Wi-Fi or cell service, and they get their mail, they get their packages only via a mule. This is insane. I didn't even know this existed. I didn't even know this was allowed, based on the fact that the most of the Grand Canyon is completely blocked off to the public. But they've been there for over 1,000 years, so they actually have reign on this particular part of the land. Tourists who have been there, though, said that now it's become a bit of a run-down area. It's almost like living in a third world place. Some people have witnessed DV or things that seem a bit eerie, but I can't confirm or deny any of this. It's all alleged in regards to how they live. However, I do know that Supai Village does indeed exist. If you heard about it, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would you move there, especially with the state of the world right now? If you don't know what I'm talking about, save this video, go look into it, come back, let me know what you think. If I find out any more interesting details, I'll be back. Per usual, this is all alleged. Like, follow, stay for some more tea.
Let them stay hidden, especially in these times.
Some of your biggest celebrities, Sean, biggest, are not the sex they appear to be, and some of them are AI, half AI, half human, or clones.
That's crazy.
Yes, and I'm talking really big. Genetic engineering is in my opinion, one of the biggest issues on this planet. The Anunnaki have an entire zoo of creations, and I mean life forms. So they have created so many different people that look like people, and they're not. But maybe they're really high in status and power and celebrities and sports. They were created through genetic experiment. They have an entire zoo full of life forms that they just waltz out whenever they want.
I was shocked with the Vault 7 revelations in 2017.
The WikiLeaks stuff.
Yeah. The CIA had developed hacking capability where they could hack into the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the Cubans, whomever, hack the system, and then leave traces of the hack on purpose, but with the traces written in Cyrillic or Mandarin, so that once they were discovered by the IT security guys in those countries, they'd say, oh, it was the Russians that did it. Look, they left one little line of code, and it's all written in Russian. The CIA is able to take over a smart TV to turn the speaker into a microphone so that it broadcasts everything taking place in the room with the TV still off. The CIA developed the capability to take over your car remotely by hacking into the car's computer system to drive you off a bridge or into a tree.
Now, did we discover examples of where this was used?
We did not, but the conventional wisdom among the blogosphere is that we should ask Michael Hastings what happened to him.
New Age, New Wars.
There was never a population of people who called themselves the Aztecs. They called themselves the Mexica, M-E-X-I-C-A, which looks shockingly like Mexico because that's where we get the word Mexico from. The Mexica never called themselves the Aztecs. They said they were from Aztlan, A-T-Z-L-A-N, Aztlan. And what happened was, about 150 years ago, anthropologists in some Ivy League school in the northeastern part of the United States decided they were sick of writing Mexica and then talking about Mexican society. So it's M-E-X-I-C-A-N. It looks like Mexican, and they couldn't differentiate then between pre-Columbian Mexico and post-Columbian Mexico. And so they came up with a new term, and EC on the end of something indicates that you're a people. So they took Aztlan, the place that the Aztecs said they were from, and made Aztec so that they could get away from using Mexica. So that's the place that I wanted to start with, just so that you knew that Aztec isn't a real thing.
History is a pack of lies agreed upon. You know who said that? Napoleon Bonaparte.
He couldn't eat our food, couldn't eat all our food, but eventually over a period of time, he had food in the craft, which they later recovered for him. And they're pellets, that he would eat these pellets, and they would melt. As soon as they got into his mouth, they would melt. And that's another thing the doctors couldn't understand was we tried them. They didn't melt in our mouth. Something about the saliva or the enzymes in Eba's mouth that immediately reacted with these food pellets. But he survived on these food pellets, but eventually they ran out. And now they had to figure out what kind of food he could eat. And they did. They found vegetables, certain types of vegetables. I don't remember the vegetables, but there were certain vegetables and fruit that he could eat and could survive on. And he could survive on our water. But eventually he succumbed to something, and I'm not sure in 1952 when he died, they figured out why.
These Satanists who are conducting the ritual in the human world, they drink this adrenaline infused, it's like a drug to them, it's a high. So this is what's actually happening in a sacrificial ritual. This is why they do them. And this global cult is an expression of those entities in the human world, the human frequency, has been given the name of loosh by some people.
And it's true that the best way for anyone to find something is by doing the digging and the research themselves. But I always say there is no smoke without fire. You know, a seed, an idea, is planted from somewhere, from some form of truth. And there is too many people saying similar things, people from very high up places. So for those who don't know, there's a rabbit hole you need to go down, and it's very dark at the bottom.
There is an ancient ancestor, like I said before, and the first worm was called a Archeon. Doesn't that sound like Archon? And if you look in the Pistis Sophia text, a lot of that information from manuscripts of Gnosticism reference worms being relatable to the cosmic parasites called Archons. Then I found that the ancient ancestor of humans is actually called a Archeon worm. Some say it's the acorn worm. I just looked up both and they're both worms. Very weird stuff.
The Darwinian nightmare, that thing there, the evolution of, what's that called, the Demigorgon? So Darwin studied worms for 39 years. Right, the theory of evolution, studied worms. And check this out, man is but a worm.
There's an almanac with his last name called the Punch Almanac. Somehow this almanac is indicating in this picture that the timelines of human existence is connected to the worm as the genesis of its evolution.
They showed the evolution, but from the worm's perspective. You're a worm, which isn't off because, you know, we come from sperm. So it's kind of sort of like a worm as well. It's real, you know, squiggly. It's got the big head, all that stuff.
So the worm evolved from itself. You see the worm right here is coming out of the ground, and then it became a monkey. I don't really agree with all of that Darwinism. And then it becomes a human hominid. But I believe it's also occult symbology because it has something to do with the Gnostic origins of souls and spirits that's trapped in the wheel of time.
Masons itself brag about the fact that their first Mason was Tubal-Cain. Now, Tubal-Cain, if you know your Bible, was the seventh man from Adam by way of Cain, and he was the guy that invented metalworking. And he is supposedly the first Mason. Now, that's pretty far back to start a conspiracy. Now, of course, we all know who Nimrod was. He's the guy that helped build the Tower of Babel. That's pretty good masonry, amen? And he was the person who basically had the idea for a one-world government. He wanted to start a United Nations. If you look in the books, the literature of Masonry, you will find that Masonry says it is the direct linear descendant from the ancient mystery religions, from the ancient fertility cults. Well, the ancient fertility cults were cults that revolved around human and animal reproduction. I'm sorry to be blunt, but that's what they mean. It's Baal worship, essentially. All of them, their rites involve sexuality. And that's the same thing that Masonry is. That's why the god of Masonry is the phallus. That's why you have Masonic monuments like the Washington Monument that look like a giant phallic symbol. It's that simple. So this is the conspiracy.
Jesus is king. Wow. Why is this on the bills?
Who runs the world?
Currently, there's an oligarchy that's really hard to pinpoint of who's actually calling the shots. And it really is a secret society that is governing the country. Who they are is a mystery. We have some idea. That's people like Anne Applebaum, Victoria Nuland.
Being silent while people are dying.
Obviously, Valerie Jarrett. They do not believe in borders. They do not believe in the welfare of the American people. They certainly don't believe in God. They are financed and funded by an even higher and billionaire oligarchy of George Soros.
I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do.
Of people of that ilk.
Wow. 13 bloodlines versus the world.
Who are not all powerful. They have been defeated in the past.
Okay, Draco.
Over the millennia, the reptilians have been kicked off of our planet They come back during times of weakness, like after a cataclysm, which is what happened most recently about 12,800 years ago. We had a huge cataclysm which destroyed a civilization that you are familiar with, Atlantis. And this group was keeping the reptilians in check at that time. And after they got flattened, the reptilians came back in force, and we have the mess we have now.
If not thousands of old world locations. We've proved this, we've shown this, that this is not a once-off. The dams are 100% weapons against the old world structures. We've proven that, and it's been shown to a lot of people. And we will continue to do that, but today I want to show that the dam itself is extremely powerful. It is there, and there are things going on inside the complex, within the walls. It has bizarre symbolism. They held a weird ceremony with the president even giving a speech, timing it all up to match with the stars at 8:56 p.m. This is not random. They know something. They have knowledge, and this is what they did. Before we go further, the possibilities of this place that we all live are endless. I'm not going to restrict the research to things that we can without a doubt prove. I'm going to continue to ask questions, and I'm going to continue to dig deeper, because this is when we find things. We all have to ask questions, like, what would the government need that much power for? Why are there buildings, places inside this dam that are restricted to even the workers? Why was there a weird ceremony at the dam? Why are there two winged figures sitting outside with Thuban written on the ground? Thuban, meaning snake or serpent. And we all know that serpent represents hidden knowledge. We have a compass on the ground and a location of possible sacrifice to turn the machine on. If they were just constructing a dam, none of this would be going on. They would just build the dam. They would never set the dam to a symbolic circle.
Believe it, you don't think that.
The Transformers 2 movie, folks. The truth in plain sight.
This is our technology.
No, I do not. There's no way. It is our no way it's our technology. There's, I've talked to too many pilots. Why would we risk our best? I mean, I've talked to the best pilots in the world that are ours. Some of them, not all of them, and that have told me. I mean, one guy, I remember I was at the Capitol Hill Club. It was just an unusual encounter. A guy spoke to a group, and he followed me out and said, you know, Tim, or congressman or whatever, he said that thing was 14 feet. He went like this from my canopy. And I thought to myself, why didn't he say 15? Why didn't he say 20? But he said 14. And then he said this thing, it wasn't ours. He said, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't ours. And that's all he said. And I had a very high-ranking member of the Navy describe some underwater experiences they'd had with something that was doing 200 miles. And the best thing we got is probably 40. It
was doing 200 miles an hour underwater?
Underwater, big as a football field, and that's no fish.
So is it possible, given our current understanding of physics, for any man-made machine to go anywhere near 200 miles an hour underwater?
Not with our technology, no. The best we have is probably in the high 30s. And he was converting it, of course, knots is what the Navy guys would do, but there's nothing.
If I fire a 30-06 or any high caliber rifle underwater, it doesn't go 200 miles an hour. I can probably catch it in the length of a swimming pool or so.
Yeah, or it just falls down.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like.
So we've got, and this was described to me in areas, and I was quoted on side. I was just all I do is quote people that have knowledge. But this was one that was he was talking about. There are 5 or 6, I think, deep water areas in the ocean. You've traveled a lot. I have not. There's not a lot of deep water areas around East Tennessee at Fort Loudon Lake or anything, but they're talking miles deep. And of course, you've heard this before. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do the surface of the ocean. And he said these are areas where we see a high propensity of these UFOs. And there was a case where it was fairly well documented. They had multiple sightings. They were doing maneuvers and had the ships or boats or whatever you want to call them out there. I'm not a Navy guy. And there was the sighting in the air, and the pilots radioed back and said, hey, is there something going on? Is there another operation? We got some secret technology stuff we're working on. They said, we don't have any. And they, Pentagon, nobody knew about anything. And they pulled it back, and then they pulled everything back, scrubbed the mission. And then the next day, all their internet traffic had been scrubbed. but this guy was kind of a wonk, and he'd make copies of it. But the point I have there is, why would we risk multi-million-dollar apparatus? And why would we put something in the air around our best pilots that could have a crash? Because these guys are talking about there's actually, they've come close to collisions. Why would they do that? They would not do that. That would be stupid. I mean, there's even, I always say military intelligence, a whole lot like congressional ethics. I don't think it really exists much anymore. But anyway, it's I just don't think that we'd be risking that. So that's my proof that it's not ours.
So how many military personnel have you spoken to about their personal experiences with these things?
I'd say, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 maybe. But I have to be real careful because I'm clearly somebody out there, and I'm not backing down on it. I'm not ashamed of it or anything, but
You have no reason to be ashamed of it.
No.
Why would you be ashamed of it?
Well, that's what they try to do, is they try to shame people.
Oh, are you hiding relevant secrets from the American public? I don't think you are.
No, but
why aren't they ashamed?
Well, I have to be careful about the white flags, the stuff people bring me that's not real.
That's why we're talking to you.
Yeah, well, that's
I've had a lot of people come to me with stuff like that.
Yeah, and I got these pictures, and I want to show you this. I've got this. I'm always afraid I'm going to end up in a refrigerator up in North Carolina, or a freezer in North Carolina somewhere.
Fallen Angel Technology.
贾维斯，检查机甲。
在做的时候，我也看到另外一个大厂做，他们大多都是其中可能做一个头盔，我觉得完成度还比较低。那我就做了整套的原创的一个机甲，能够全部自动开合，同时能够适应人体，也能装一些像展示性的武器之类的道具。怎么用这种参数化的建模软件去完成一个这样机甲的多边形的设计，去做相关的运动仿真，让它能够动起来，能够自己打开，让我穿进去，这是难点所在。目前是用的非常便宜的 PET 器材料，我本身是机械专业的，把我小时候的梦想一定程度上去实现了。
This should count as passing the midterm and the final exam all at once. This guy is just a genius. Oh man, this is so sad. Oh god. I like the intro. More like the oldest written song humanity has ever found. There's a better description. Can I turbocharge it?
This is the most expensive wood on Earth, but not for the reason you'd think, as it's called golden thread Nanmu, and a single log can sell for over $3 million. As when you look closely, it naturally shimmers like gold, almost like thin threads of silk are running through the wood. But for hundreds of years, it was reserved by Chinese emperors to be used to build palace halls, temple pillars, and royal coffins, which you may think that's because of its golden look, but it's actually because it has an extremely rare ability that no other wood has. Because as it grows in constant humidity for centuries, its slowly produces resins that crystallize inside the grain, and these resins protect it from rot, insects, and even cracking, making the wood practically immortal.
It's the demons and angels stuff, you know? You're going to find that Satanism, and then you've got that group that's out now.
I have no idea.
So that's another one. They are not necessarily all white supremacists, but they are accelerationists, heavily satanic. And when you get into that order of 9 angles and that 764, so it's horrific stuff. It's Satanism, and they're like going online, and most of the ones they've been flipping or entrapping is what I should say, is tweens and it's boys. So they'll get somebody, and there's like even a scoring system. So they will either get you to do something bad on camera, and now they've got it, and now they're sextorting you, or just extorting you, period. And they're having like live view parties where you have to harm yourself, cut yourself open, and they're watching it. And they're telling you if you don't do that, they're going to send it out and, you know, basically dox you, but spread it all over the place. And it's very, very evil. And they even call it like a bean. So if you cut a bean open, like a navy bean or a lima bean, you know, that white. So when you cut through the fat, if you cut all the way through, that fat looks like the inside of a bean. So they call it a bean. That's just one of the things.
Wow.
It's pretty sick, demonic stuff out there. If you scratch at the surface long enough on these accelerationist groups, at least up until the time I retired and thereafter, you're going to find probably somebody in there with an order of 9 angles or some kind of satanic stuff going on.
I'm going to show you guys in this video how a reptilian race of beings is controlling our government and everything that they do. You need to pay attention to this and watch to the end. This is how they tell you the truth in plain sight. What you're about to see next is a Super Bowl commercial a few years ago. Pay attention.
Hello, Earth. I'm Alec Baldwin, TV star. You know, they say TV will rot your brain. That's absurd. TV only softens the brain like a ripe banana. To take it all the way, we've created Hulu. Hulu beams TV directly to your portable computing devices, giving you more of the cerebral gelatinizing shows you want anytime, anywhere, for free. I only act out because I want you alone. Mushy mush. And the best part is there's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, what are you going to do, turn off your TV and your computer? Once your brains are reduced to a cottage cheese like mush, we'll scoop them out with a melon ball or gobble them right on up. Oops. I think I'm drooling a little. Because we're aliens. And that's how we roll. Hulu, plot to destroy the world.
Let me ask you guys, what kind of message is this sending to you? Think that they just do this for the hell of it? Because we're aliens and that's how we roll. An evil plot to destroy the world. You ever notice if you fold up the dollar bill in a certain way, this is what it makes? You think that's just a coincidence, guys? You think all this is a coincidence? I want you to watch this carefully. See, as a part of their religion, their satanic order, as they're trying to control the world, they need to disclose the truth in plain sight. They need to tell you literally who they are and what they are doing. This is why there's so much predictive programming. This is why everyone's like, oh, The Simpsons predicts everything. It's not a prediction. It's just an agenda. They're just telling you what they're going to do in plain sight. This is a perfect example of this as well. The truth about reptilians. They walk among us. This is on Amazon. And again, they're just telling you who they are and what they do. This is so obvious at this point, guys. This is why the world is in so much chaos, because it's quite literally a shape-shifting reptilian race that controls all of our governments, all of our media, and everything in between. And the truth will truly set you free.
Talking about the Tartarians, man, they built this thing called the Crystal Palace, late 1800s. It was almost 1 million square feet.
Wow.
What?
Is this real or was this just a drawn plan?
It was real. It was built in the late 1800s for an exhibition. After the exhibition, they tore it down and then relocated it somewhere, and then it remained standing until
19
1936.
When it burnt down.
What?
This thing's huge. But they tore it down and relocated it.
How do you...
They also built it, I think they said in like 2 years or something. No, less than that. Isn't that insane? Talk about like old technology and like being able to build stuff.
With the intention of knowing it's not a permanent structure. That's crazy.
They said within that building they had 14,000 exhibitors for this exhibition.
Bro, how do you even do this?
It's nuts, isn't it? But yeah, that inside picture of like the garden and stuff, like, I mean, it's
beautiful.
Insane. And that's where the whole Tartarian thing comes into play. People are like,
sure,
it wasn't exhibitions.
Yeah.
It was old Tartarian technology. Yeah. And then the mud flood happened. The mud flood!
But I strongly suggest that if you have the opportunity to really explore the nuances and the details of these different societies, these different cultures, look at them on their own, and then step far enough back and look at the commonalities that you see between them. And don't just allow things such as geographical separation or even quantum separation to make you believe that there are differences within these civilizations and these societies in the way that they viewed things. Because when you factor out distance and time, you suddenly find that there are a lot more similarities than we like to think. We suddenly realize that this may all be the same account, just simply told from different perspectives. That there really is one unified series of events that transpired in the past, and that it really is possible for us to gain a greater understanding of what truly happened. That it goes beyond the limitations of belief and the hard science that some other expert has to share with us.
Tom is sending me these long emails that he's getting, right? And he's saying, what the hell do you make of this? Right? And we get on the phone and we start talking about this, and I'm saying, we're having an all the president's men moment right here. I said, we're having a deep throat moment because people are trying to tell us something without telling us something.
Right.
You know, it's like follow the money, right?
Yeah.
They're giving us hints of where we should go on this. And we have to pay attention to what they're not telling us and what they're telling us. And this came across because at one point, somebody sent us this long email, one of his most trusted advisors, said, have you really looked, how much do you know about Greek mythology? It's like, whoa.
Who said that?
I can't say.
Okay.
So he came out and said that. It was a he. He came out and said, do that, right? And it's specifically talking about Prometheus. Now that gives the show away, right? If we take the Prometheus story as an encrypted story of what actually happened, we're getting close. And I think that is what it is. There, at some point, somebody did something they weren't supposed to do. And it might have jump-started civilization on this planet, right? It might have been that. But Prometheus suddenly became the thing. And so Tom is saying, what the fuck do we know about Prometheus? You know? And so I'm saying, let's take it easy. Let's go. You know, Prometheus was this guy who stole fire from the gods, right? For the humans. He was giving fire to the humans. Humans didn't have fire. They were freezing their asses off. Prometheus came down and said, here's fire, get warm, you know? And the gods didn't like that. So they punished Prometheus. You know, you're going to get chained to a rock, you know? You're going to be punished for the rest of your existence for this thing. So I said, let's go back and look at this. This is what they're trying to tell. They're trying to tell us something. And what is Prometheus about? It's about contact between the humans and the gods. And the one who made the contact was a god, not one of the humans.
That's right. And it was a god who was transgressing on behalf of humans against the gods themselves, sort of a rebel,
right?
You know, sleeper cell god.
Yeah. Which the Gnostics believed was the serpent in the Garden of Eden, that the serpent was God, that the God that we know of from the Bible was the imposter, the interloper, the guy who was not really God.
So I got breakfast with Tom DeLonge once, who I love, by the way. I think he's
a great guy.
He's the best.
Yeah.
And he actually referenced Gnostic thought at the time. He was talking about the archons, who were considered kind of almost imprisoners of the kind of lower material world and like Gnostic ideology. And you hear Gnostic thought, you know, run across a lot of ufology. Like it seems like Jacques Vallée is roughly kind of Gnostic in his orientation.
Jesus is my God.
Did you know one of the most credible Bigfoot encounters ever recorded happened through the window of a Volkswagen Beetle? The man who lived it wasn't a thrill seeker. He was a World War II medical specialist who could read footprints like a forensic detective. This gentleman's name is Arthur Archie Buckley, and he's one of the most overlooked but most serious early Bigfoot researchers. Before he ever searched the Trinity Alps for Bigfoot, he would spend years studying the human gait and helping amputees. He knew how to analyze pressure, stride, weight, and balance. And then on June 18th, 1970, that training met the unexpected. Archie had hung salmon up in the trees about 10 feet. He was trying to lure in something using a technique that he would call friendship and fish. And that night, an 8-foot-tall Sasquatch walked right into his camp and ate them. Archie, laying awake in the back of his Volkswagen Beetle, lifted up a flashlight, and the creature stepped right up to the glass. For 10 to 15 seconds, they stared deep and directly into each other's eyes. No aggression, no running, just two individuals sizing each other up in the dark. And that encounter defined Archie's life. Archie Buckley passed on June 18, 2007, an unsung researcher in the field of Bigfoot. Put your encounters in the comments and like and follow for more Bigfoot stories.
15 seconds is an eternity.
That's interesting.
I gotta know the God frequency here real quick. 963 hertz.
Okay, so 9 plus 6 plus 3, that's 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. The whole set of these numbers, pretty much like, think of it, 432, 4 plus 3 plus 2, 9. 7920, 7 plus 9 plus 2, 18. 1 plus 8 is 9.
Interesting.
Yeah. The octave of C vibrates at 528 cycles per second. G vibrates at 396 cycles per second. So there's G and there's C. I said that the original circular church was 39.6 feet.
369.
396.
Well, those numbers just keep intermingling.
Yeah, the 39.6 times 10, you have 396, which is the vibrational rate in cycles per second of G. C is 528. Add a zero onto that, now you got the number of feet in a mile. Now, where's the origin of the mile? I've looked it up. I've tried to find it. Nope, I can't find anything. It's just apparently very, very old.
I heard the mile came from the Roman legions.
What exactly does it say in the Sumerian tablets and those myths?
I have a lot of respect for Zechariah Sitchin. I think he was a brilliant man. I think he was a good scholar. And he pretty much single-handedly brought to the mainstream. I mean, there have always been linguists behind the scenes. But through his series of books, The 12th Planet, his interpretation is that we are here because we were made to be slaves. My sense from what I have read and what I understand in the ancient traditions of people I've talked to, and in the texts, we put them all together, I think very possibly we have been enslaved at a time in our past. I don't think it's the reason we're created.
Is the story of the Anunnaki coming down and creating us to mine gold?
Well, that was his interpretation. You know, the
put in the atmosphere.
Biblical interpretation is that we're deceived into coming to the earth realm and captured in matter in three-dimensional bodies and led to believe that there is no other realm. And that is a form of evil. You go back far enough, and all of the traditions that I've seen, they all say that we're the product of an intentional act. The multiple iterations of what it took to create the first humans and how we were created. You go into the Apocrypha and the Gnostic texts, they never say God created. And even the original biblical text, it says Elohim, and Elohim is a plural. So multiple beings created humans. And when you go into the Apocrypha, the texts that were left out by the church, the first time didn't work. Multiple iterations of humans had to be created to hold the power of the soul in the three-dimensional world. So another way of saying that is multiple iterations of DNA had to be tested.
Who's the enslaved? They just changed the method. Have you not heard of a paycheck? How about the taxes? This guy. Oh, by the way, Zechariah Sitchin is a Freemason. It does look like AI, right? But it says real footage. What is that?
of you have asked, if there was a mud flood, where did all the mud come from? How and why did all these buildings get buried or look sunken? I believe the big portion of what was experienced, as you can see here, a process known as soil liquefaction. When loose soil, or saturated in loose soil, becomes shaken, usually from an earthquake, it'll cause it to pretty much liquefy. Check out this example of it happening. Now these blocks here are going to be representing those old world buildings. Now imagine a realm-wide cataclysmic event. Massive earthquake, pole shift, sudden floodings, dams breaking, and the ground beneath your feet starts shaking violently and turns to jello. This has happened in recent times. Much smaller scale events. But as you can see in even these small scale examples, the once solid earth beneath your feet can swallow you up in an instant. Now imagine that on a much larger scale. Everything was sunken and buried. And we've spent the last century and a half digging out. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
1871. Gosh, why? Why would you do that? Don't drink it. This is getting weirder by the day and scary.
No, these aren't monsters. They're a telescope fish mother and child. Telescope fish live in the ocean depths. The baby remains fused to his mother, like a parasitic twin, until he bites himself free and swims off.
That's my ex and her mom.
What if the mountains we walk beneath aren't just stone, but the petrified remains of giants, silent witnesses to a hidden history carved out of fear, myth, and something we were never meant to uncover?
They do look like a face, sad face.
Zechariah Sitchin notes that the Sumerian cycle of 1800 years, which is exactly 600 times 3, was very important to the Anunnaki for astronomical reasons. This fact is found enumerated in Flying Serpents and Dragons on page 57. 3439 BC was exactly the 1800th year of the Anunnaki neurochronology of 600-year epics that began in 5239 BC. And Enoch of the Genesis narrative appears, who is none other than the Enki of Sumerian text, a great benefactor to humanity.
So we have now interviewed two separate sets of people who saw a Sasquatch right around the same time of year, all that. They both have very similar descriptions of the creature, so that alone is super unique. But beyond that, there's also the fact that we're in close proximity to the Nantahala River, which, I mean, from, you know, we've already talked to Jeff Carpenter before about the extremely long history of, you know, encounters sort of around the Nantahala Gorge and the Nantahala River.
So y'all don't see what's going on. We got books showing us that these folks come across the Bering Straits, and now we got pictures showing that they go ride on the boat with the demons. Then they come with the white man to this land. Dude, the photos showing us. I see demons. I see a shadow, all kinds of shadow people. You know what I'm saying, man? If you really zoom into the picture and really look, I done posted it also. But y'all, look what we dealing with, man. Y'all, we already was in these lands, and they trying to manipulate us with all kind of things. You know what I'm saying? But now we understand what's going on. And the thing about it, though, we old enough now to know what's going on. You got to understand the message. You got to understand what we dealing with, y'all. We dealing with identity theft, as they promote on the TVs. But see, like, We don't want to stand on these 10 toes and these 2 feet and stand up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we might lose some friends, we might lose some things, we might, you know, so we might get blackballed or whatever, but whatever. Let us be us. But y'all, we got to know who we are as a people. For one thing, the Most High said we're on a path for lack of knowledge. And and then also he said we lowers ourselves. Then he said we stiff-necked people.
What?
I backed up on the map, the thing to show y'all that map. I'm gonna go live in 1 minute, and we're gonna talk about this map also. But y'all, with this picture here, we're gonna talk about this too. But it's so much, y'all. It's so much we got going on, and that we got to understand what we're dealing with, y'all. Right now today. Let's go. Understand the message, people.
Wait till you find out the name of that boat. I think there's a robot controlled by a human.
They say the reason she was on the trunk is she was collecting her husband's brain matter in chunks of his head that were on the trunk. Pieces of his head. Some say she was fleeing from the gunfire coming from the front seat, particularly from the driver. Allow me to postulate for a second. The trunk is spotless. You could eat off of it. And if she was fleeing from gunfire coming from the front seat, how come as soon as she got onto the trunk of the vehicle and had in her hand the object in which she got onto the trunk in the first place to retrieve? And once retrieving that object, she turned and made it back to her seat unassisted, right back directly behind the gunfire coming from the front seat from the driver. Highly unlikely. She went on that trunk to retrieve something. It's in her hand. It's been 62 years since they pointed the finger at Oswald. Not one credible suspect since. What does that tell you? Think about it.
Waking up to the world we actually live in is terrifying.
Passing Rouen Cathedral, something almost literally out of Jules Verne. This car can cruise at speeds of up to 70-odd miles an hour. On water. The energy factor, of course, is hydrogen, which, as any schoolboy knows, is contained in water in the ratio of 2 parts to 1 of oxygen. A formula described by Jules Verne more than 100 years ago. So what have we been waiting for? Engine can also power a generator, to provide light and heat. What's more, it's pollution-free. The car's already run for well over 1,000 miles, and the promoters say the scheme is practical and a commercial proposition. Fuel on tap, in fact. An ordinary day in an ordinary supermarket.
Water prices would have risen as much as gas. There's no escape.
Have y'all seen this photo of what looks like 2 people stranded on a deserted island? A woman was snapping photos out of a window of a passenger plane on a flight from Istanbul, where she takes a photo of this very small, deserted island. But when you zoom in on this deserted island, you can actually see what looks like two people standing on it. One almost looks like they're waving their hands in the air. And I'm pretty sure this island is within the Prince's Islands off the coast of Turkey. The problem here is if these are people, these people have to be giant. Oh, Turkey is no stranger to giants. In Turkey, there's actually a place called Joshua's Hill, where it's said that there is a 17-meter tall giant buried in this area. And not just that, it's believed that the mountains in Turkey are actually the titans that fought the Olympians. Obviously, these stories are all mythological, but could this photo prove that there are actually giants still living in this area? Or what do you think this is?
I think that might just be a small island. What do you think?
A person who can walk between worlds carries a kind of knowing that can't be taught. Most people live only in what they can see, trusting the surface of life to guide them. But the one who feels the echo of memory in their blood moves with a deeper truth. Because epigenetic imprinting doesn't lie. It whispers the lessons their ancestors survived. They read energy the way others read faces. Their intuition, their inheritance. And here's why that's powerful. You can't misdirect someone who senses the intention underneath the action. You can't fool a heart that's been shaped by generations of knowing. And when life repeats itself, they recognize the pattern long before it becomes pain. That kind of awareness shifts their whole trajectory. And here's the irony. The more they trust their inherited knowing, the more aligned their path becomes. The person who listens to their bloodline walks with a confidence that doesn't need permission. That's not magic. That's memory waking up. And it's one of the most grounding and electrical forms of power a human can carry. If this resonated with you, type bridge in the comments.
Absolutely brilliant. Beautifully spoken.